A rebellion at sea became a nightmare on land. This is the true story of the HMS Bounty mutineers, a voyage that spiraled from defiance into a chilling descent. You will discover the full, shocking truth of how a secret paradise transformed into a prison of the mind, what drove a group of sailors to turn on their captain, and what dark forces awaited them on their remote island sanctuary. Why did their dream of freedom collapse into a vortex of paranoia and bloodshed? By the end, you will understand the terrifying psychological forces that unraveled an entire society. What do you believe is the true price of absolute isolation? The calm of a South Pacific morning was shattered by the sounds of urgent footsteps and raised voices. On April 28, 1789, the HMS Bounty was no longer a ship of the British Royal Navy. It was a stage for rebellion. The man at the center of the storm was Master's Mate Fletcher Christian, who, with a group of armed men, confronted Captain William Bligg in his cabin. This was not a spontaneous riot. It was the culmination of a long voyage defined by Bligg's tyrannical command. His discipline was notoriously harsh, even for an era known for its brutal naval punishments. Men were flogged for minor infractions, their spirits broken by constant verbal abuse and public humiliation, but the tyranny was only one part of the explosive mixture. The other was paradise remembered. The Bounty had spent months in Tahiti, and the contrast between that island's gentle society and the rigid, oppressive world of the ship was stark. The crew had tasted freedom, warmth, and a different way of life. Returning to the lash and the harsh rations under Bligg became an unbearable prospect. The tension simmered for weeks, a pot boiling over without a lid. The final spark was Bligg's accusation that Christian had stolen some coconuts, a petty charge that unleashed a torrent of pent-up rage and fear. Christian and his followers made their move, seizing control of the vessel with startling efficiency. In a breathtaking act of defiance, they forced Bligg and 18 men who remained loyal to him into the ship's small, 23-foot launch boat. They were cast adrift in the vastness of the open ocean with minimal supplies, a virtual death sentence. This single, drastic act severed the mutineers from the world they knew, setting them on a new and terrifying course. What do you do after you have committed an unforgivable crime and stolen a king's ship? For Fletcher Christian, the only path was to disappear forever. The vastness of the Pacific offered no easy refuge for men wanted by the entire British Empire. Every charted island was a potential trap, its shores possibly patrolled by a Royal Navy vessel. For months, Fletcher Christian and his followers sailed a stolen ship across an endless blue desert, their freedom shadowed by the constant dread of the noose. Their desperate search ended on January 15, 1790, when a jagged green speck rose from the horizon. It was Pitcairn Island, a dot so remote and so wrongly placed on their maps that it was the perfect sanctuary. From the sea, it looked like a fortress, its cliffs a natural barrier against the world. They had found their hiding place, a secret Eden far from the reach of kings and admirals. Landing was a monumental task, but the mutineers, along with the Tahitian men and women who had joined them, succeeded. They established their new world with fervor, burning the Bounty in its secluded bay to erase the last physical evidence of their crime and their past. At first, the island provided everything. They built huts, planted gardens from the seeds they had saved, and divided the land. The community was a fragile alliance of 9 British mutineers, 6 Tahitian men, and 12 Tahitian women, a small society forged in rebellion and hope. For a brief, shining moment, it seemed they had achieved the impossible, a life of true liberty, free from the tyranny they had escaped. But paradise is a fragile concept, and isolation is a slow-acting poison. The first cracks appeared with the scarcity of resources. The island was not the boundless paradise of Tahiti. Its land was limited, and its soil, while fertile, could only support so much. Tensions over food and land began to simmer. More critically, the social structure they had built was fatally flawed. The British men claimed the Tahitian women as wives, but the ratio was never equal, leaving the Tahitian men without partners. This created a deep, festering resentment, a fundamental inequality that poisoned their new world from within. The very isolation that protected them also trapped them. There was no escape from each other, no outlet for grievances, no neutral ground. Their sanctuary, surrounded by 1,000 miles of empty ocean, was becoming a gilded cage. The pristine beaches and lush valleys now felt like the walls of a prison, and the same men who had risked everything for freedom were about to discover that the greatest threat to their survival was not the Royal Navy, but each other. The island's silence was no longer peaceful, but heavy with suspicion. That fundamental inequality, the resentment of the Tahitian men who had been denied wives and status, festered for months. It began with whispers of stolen property, a missing knife or a bundle of plantains, but these accusations were never really about objects. They were about power, dignity, and a deep-seated jealousy that slowly curdled into hatred. The British mutineers, led by Fletcher Christian, had established themselves as the ruling class, a decision that now bred a dangerous contempt among their former allies. The fragile peace shattered with a single act of violence. One of the Tahitian men, tired of the subjugation, stole a gun. The theft was discovered, and in the ensuing confrontation, he was killed. This was not an isolated incident. It was the first spark in a firestorm of revenge. The killing fractured the community completely, dissolving their shared history of rebellion into two hostile camps. The British men saw the Tahitian men as a threat to their authority and their lives. The Tahitian men saw the British as arrogant tyrants who had stolen their women and their freedom, repeating the very oppression they had all fled from on the Bounty. Trust evaporated overnight. A man could not walk to his garden without fearing an ambush. The lush valleys that once promised abundance now offered perfect cover for murder. The community descended into a brutal cycle of retaliation. A Tahitian man would be killed in revenge for the death of a mutineer, only for another mutineer to be slaughtered soon after. Fletcher Christian, the charismatic leader of the mutiny, became a primary target. He was gunned down while working in his field, a sudden and violent end for the man who had dreamed of founding a new society. His death signaled that no one was safe. The killings continued until nearly all the original Tahitian men and 5 of the 9 British mutineers were dead. The dream of a peaceful sanctuary was drowned in blood. The few survivors, a handful of British men, the Tahitian women, and their children, now lived in a state of constant, paralyzing fear. Their island prison had walls made not of rock, but of paranoia. Every shadow held a potential enemy, and every face, even that of a former friend, could mask the intent to kill. They had escaped the justice of the British Empire only to create a court of their own, where the sentence was always death, and the executioner was your neighbor. Only one mutineer remained. When the smoke of the killings cleared, John Adams stood amidst the wreckage of their dream, surrounded by a handful of Tahitian women and their children. He was a man who had participated in a mutiny and survived a massacre, a man haunted by the ghosts of his comrades and his own past sins. The island was now a graveyard, and its sole adult male survivor was its caretaker. In this crucible of trauma, something remarkable happened. Adams discovered the Bounty's neglected Bible and navigational books, and he began to read. He underwent a profound spiritual transformation, turning away from the violent man he had been. He became a patriarch, a teacher, and a spiritual leader for the small, traumatized community. He used the Bible to forge a new social order, one built not on force, but on faith and shared survival. He taught the children to read and write, and he established a strict, devout Christian society. The very tools of their isolation became the instruments of their redemption. For 18 years, this tiny community lived in complete seclusion, a secret world healing its own wounds. Then in February 1808, an American sealing vessel, the Topaz, sighted the island. The crew was astonished to find a thriving settlement, a society descended from the legendary bounty mutineers they all thought had been lost at sea. The world finally knew their fate. The legacy of that initial violence, however, never truly vanished. It echoed in the unique culture that developed on Pitcairn, a blend of Polynesian and English traditions, forever marked by its brutal and solitary birth. The island's modern identity is a direct result of that small band of survivors and the man who led them from madness into a fragile, hard-won peace. Their story forces us to ask a difficult question: can a community founded in bloodshed ever truly wash away its past, or does the shadow of its origin always linger, a permanent scar on the land and its people? The story of the Bounty Mutineers is a profound tragedy of unintended consequences. These men fought for freedom, only to build a prison with their own hands. Their journey spiraled from a desperate act of defiance into a nightmare of their own making, proving that the most inescapable chains are often forged in the mind. The very isolation that protected them from the world's laws magnified their inner demons, turning a paradise into a charnel house. This dark chapter forces us to confront a difficult truth about human nature. Civilization is a fragile construct, a thin veneer of order and cooperation. When stripped away by absolute solitude and the crushing weight of a shared, terrible secret, that veneer can crack, revealing the savagery that lies beneath. The mutineers did not merely find an island, they found a mirror, and in its reflection, they saw the monsters they could become. We are left to wonder, where does the true line between sanity and madness lie? Was it in the chaotic violence of the mutiny itself, or in the slow, paranoid unraveling that followed? What part of this haunting story resonates most deeply with you? Was it the tyrannical spark that ignited the rebellion, the heartbreaking collapse of their island dream, or the chilling redemption that rose from the ashes? Share your thoughts below.